6 o'clock. Approval of the minutes from November 20th.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the minutes as written. It's been seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I didn't see who the second was. Thank you, Bill.
Didn't recognize his voice either, did you?
No.
That's quiet.
Are we masks on?
Pardon
Are we
me?
masks on?
Yeah.
Appearance of interested citizens. So do we have anybody who isn't going to make comments on the master plan, or do they want to have other business? Okay.
Do you want to call the names out? Or
What?
did you
Are you
want
going
to?
to call him out?
Yeah, she's coming right there.
Oh, you already called, okay.
I just don't know her name yet.
I thought
Is
you
it
used
on
the
the-
list.
I know you did,
Oh, okay.
but they just raised their hand. What's your name?
My name is Lisa Sajeka. I'm a citizen of Keizer, and I have two things. First, I'd like to give a great big shout out to, I think his name was Don, who works for Public Works. I ran into him, not literally, at Keizer Rapids, and I was a distance away. I put my finger up, and he stopped and he waited. And he listened to me tell him about people ripping down signs at the Boat Up Campground. And he was super helpful, super friendly. And when I had walked around and was going back, he was down there looking at it. And I have just never had a bad interaction with anybody with Public Works. I mean, have all been fantastic. And I don't think that people tell you enough how good the people are. So that was my first thing. The second thing is I have a question. It's also about Keizer Rapids. It's about the boat ramp. I use it a lot. And this winter, when they took out the sections of the dock because of it being winter, they took an extra section out. And right now, none of it is floating. So the hunters and the fishers, that's not, the fisher people, they kind of are having, I mean, it's a little bit of a feat to get, a hold of their boat because there's this much of it touching water right now because the river is so low. So I don't know what to do.
Robert.
So we took out the same amount of floats as normal, actually. We're just experiencing a rather low water year thus far in the Willamette River. And it's kind of one of those things, if we don't get them out in time, it can cause us a real big problem. We have logs that float up in a back eddy, and it can actually make it to where it's almost impossible for us to
And they're every
get them
day.
out.
Yeah, I've seen the years that it was a
Yeah.
little late and there's been logs.
Yes. So we had an opportunity to remove the floats, and we did, and then the water kind of dropped out on us, and it hasn't come back up yet. It should. It most likely will. Yeah, unfortunately, the duck hunters right now are struggling a little bit, but most of them are used to kind of dragging their boats up on uneven areas anyways, so shouldn't be too big of a problem.
Okay. Thank you, and that's all that I had.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Thank you.
Yes, do you want to come up and tell us your name? Yeah, right there.
Hello, my name is Michael Bays, and I'm a citizen of Keizer. I'm also the Vice President of McNair Youth Baseball. And I wanted to talk to you guys about Claggy Creek Park. We would like to do T-ball there this year, and in exchange for some exclusive field use, we would like to redo and maintain the baseball fields out there at Claggy Creek Park. We'd also be willing to put in extra volunteer time to pick up garbage, police it up, whatever you guys need.
You need to talk to Robert.
Yeah, we do work closely with other youth sports at Clagett, rugby, soccer folks. I think it would be appropriate for us to have a meeting and sit down and discuss what it is that you're looking to do.
Sure.
Whether you can have exclusive rights or not, that it's a public park, so we got to be really careful how we go about doing anything like that. But
I mean, really just any availability
yeah.
would be great.
yeah, we would love to see the T-ball fields or baseball fields used more frequently there. So yeah, if you want to volunteer and help out fix something up, and we can talk about it.
So, question, I know with COVID being what it is, over the summer and through the spring, most of the smaller league, or most of the youth leagues have not been able to play and practice at school, is that correct?
That's correct.
So this is kind of one of those things you're looking at as an option in terms of usability and everything else until schools open back up, right?
Correct. I mean, historically, T-ball plays 48 games a year at Clear Lake Elementary. And so if we were able to do T-ball again this year, that's what we'd be looking to do. And then work with the city on what time frames would work best for you guys. Just really try to give the kids an opportunity because we can't use the schools. And Claggett's got really the best parking for families to get in and out. So, I mean, that's kind of why we're interested in that one. But I totally get it. My kids play soccer too.
Yeah.
And we do our camps there. So, I mean,
The cool thing is we just about doubled the capacity of the parking lot on the north end. We had it repaved recently, and we widened it enough to where we have head-in parking on both sides. So we can park more vehicles there than ever before, but we still need to be careful of, if baseball folks and rugby and soccer all want to show up at the same time, we got a big problem. So but
Right.
that's something we can talk about and see what we can do.
all right. So what's the next step? Do I email you?
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay.
Email me with your information, johnson@keizer.org, and maybe we can have a meeting and kind of discuss some details.
All right. Thank you guys for your
Okay,
time.
thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else that's not here for the master plan? Okay, come on up. It's nice to see you again.
Good evening, board and staff. My name is Carol Dorfler. I am here as a resident and the president of the West Keizer Neighborhood Association. We in West Keizer are very, very fortunate. We have 3 developed parks, 1 undeveloped area, and a regional park in our backyard. So we cherish these parks, and we we're really possessive about them, let's put it that way. So I'm here tonight to express my concern in proceeding with this Parks Master Plan, especially during these COVID times. Resident input is surely going to be impacted by the inability to have open houses, town halls, or participation here in this meeting to voice their concerns or their wants. Yes, there is a survey out there. I completed it. It has been sent to all the neighborhood associations, but that certainly is a small percentage of residents here in Keizer. And these are the same residents that are paying a fee that is enabling parks to do some of this development. And I think it's really, really, really important to hear from those people. Question is there a time frame for the master plan update to be completed? If no, I would suggest that this process be tabled. If yes, I would suggest that the completion date be amended and the process be tabled. Yes, this is a bold ask, but it is necessary to have input from as many residents as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Questions?
Oh, thank you.
So, Carol, I always appreciate your participation. I guess my question might be, if you're asking for this ask, to what degree is a quality level of participation in your opinion? I mean, if you're going to quantify it, I mean, is 400 enough? Is 200 enough? Is 15,000 enough? I mean, I guess what I'm asking is,
I think 1% of the population is not enough, and that's probably what you're going to get with the survey. I don't know that. It's only gone out to neighborhood associations that I know of.
No, it's gone out to, may I explain who it's?
Yes.
it's gone out to all the city committees, all the interested citizens for every city committee, all the interested citizens for the council. Anybody who has access to our website also has access to the survey.
Well, that is a piece that I did not know. I think it would be wise to perhaps put that in the water bill, either the survey, a printed survey, or a link to where you can get to the survey would perhaps get you some more input. But right now, even though Debbie's included all these other people, I think that's a small fraction of a city that has a population of 45,000 people, almost 50,000 people now. And these residents are the ones that are paying the fee.
Well, I follow the West Keizer pages, and I know you guys have been sharing it, and I think a big part of getting that out there is just continuing to do that. I mean, a lot of these things take repetition and making sure that they're getting out there. I know I've shared it multiple times with the Keizer Facebook groups. I know a few others have, the mayor has, most of the city councilors, if not all, have. And unfortunately, as you mentioned, this is the era where I think the information is really critical. But I think so far the responses probably prove that we're doing a little bit better job than what some might think. Depending on what the answer is in terms of timeframes and stuff like that, if we are in a crunch, then maybe that just means that we got to do more and more and more to try to get additional participation. Just my 2 bits on it, but continue to share it out.
My understanding that the survey is to be completed by the end of December. Okay. Well, that certainly isn't enough time to
Well, but that might only be I would highly suggest listening to what the consultants have to say, because I would bet that's probably only one part of the whole in terms of public outreach. So this might just be the first kind of reach at that. I would expect that we'll probably hear more opportunities. Just my guess. I'm kind of queuing off the consultant a little bit if she's nodding her head, but I would imagine that's probably the case. So this is probably high level, and it's going to probably dwindle down a little bit more, but just my thoughts.
Thank you, Matt.
I think Wayne's good.
Yes.
Reviewing the executive plan, the master plan that was sent out. Community input for this park included the Parks Advisory Board, 3 community meetings, contacting organized sports groups, and community forum. This was back in 2008 or 2007 when they were putting the original master plan together. I'm sure we're going to do all of those things for community input and probably more.
How can you do that during the pandemic?
Zoom meetings. I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know if there's any responses to the questions that Carol had. I know she asked a couple questions, and if you can be responsive to those questions, that would be good.
I don't have answers to all of our questions right now, but absolutely, I think Cindy with MIG is going to have answers to a lot of that and be able to bring some clarification to the concerns that were just mentioned. So I hope the group here has time to stay tonight and listen to see what she has to say, and I think there will be a lot of clarity from that.
Thank you, Robert. Yes, Mr. Lawyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One question that was asked by Carol was completion date. The contract currently has a completion date for the project of April 30th, 2021. That date was driven by me to try and have a finished master plan in place ahead of budget time for next fiscal year. Going into this, I knew this was COVID time. It is an aggressive schedule. If we go through the process and we do not get reasonable public input, we will look at extending the deadline for the master plan. Define reasonable input on my part. Kind of tough to define, but I think we all will know and have a feel for good public input in this process based on what we see, what we hear. Carol mentioned 1% of the population. That would be about 400 residents replying to the survey. From my standpoint, that's only one part of it. We want the input from the other groups that are outlined to get input from. Excuse me, if for some reason we fail to get that input, that might drive extending the contract deadline. So my point is, in all this is, the input from the public and the groups and the community is vital to this project, and we will do everything we can to get that meaningful input to create the updated master plan that is best for the city.
Thank you, Bill. Are you an interested citizen? Come on up.
Carolyn Hohen, I'm a citizen of Keizer. I took the survey. My concern, I guess, with the survey is the answers you get depend on the questions you ask and how you ask them. And the choices, I felt, were skewed a little bit toward recreation and in terms of facilities. And I mean, I belong to a gym, but I don't expect Keizer to build a gym. For me, I already go to a gym. So, and then some of the other choices depend on definition. What is your definition of recreation? When you have a list of choices, some places you could write in an other choice, but it's pretty limiting in a lot of ways. One of the definitions I was concerned about was beauty was described as landscaping, artistic features, and installations, basically. Whereas nature was something altogether, topographical, trees, bushes. To me, that's beauty. So, depends on your definition, but you're forced to make a choice that's sort of artificial from your standpoint. So, the survey is one thing. I'm just hoping we can find a way to have other input that's a little more open so people can really express their opinions and feelings. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else wish to speak? Okay.
I'm Tom Holman. I'm a resident of Keizer. And I just wanted to kind of point out some choices here when you're talking about beauty and artistic representation, things like that. It depends on what you're coming from, where you're coming from, what your history is as a person. Now, I kind of felt like the idea of having concrete walls, like an 8 or 12 foot concrete wall in a park for the people who like to come in and do folk art. And some people call them taggers, whatever. Come in and let them, they generally tend to be younger people too, let them come in and express themselves. Now, they would be involved in setting up guidelines to make sure that they weren't fomenting rebellion or something like that. But I've seen this done, and it's not your typical art. It may, like you look at the art that's on the side of the old bowling alley. That's kind of, white middle class folk art. You take somebody else, they're going to have their own idea of folk art. It may have African influence. It may have Central American influence, South American influence, Asian influence. Who's going to sit there and say, well, that's not beauty, or that's not art? When in fact, it could be art to a lot of people, and it could be inspiration to people who hadn't thought that that's art. So this is one thing that I am concerned about. When you're tending to focus things in too narrow an alley, instead of leaving it open for all different people and their experiences to have input. And like my wife mentioned, landscaping. I mean, what are you talking about landscaping? I like habitat. And a lot of people think habitat, well, that's nothing. I can go walk around in the forest. Well, what's wrong with that? It encourages wildlife. It encourages insects. It encourages pollination. It encourages production. It encourages clean air, clean water, clean soil. So, my main comment tonight is don't pigeonhole things. Don't force everybody down the alley that you think everybody should be going. Okay, I've had my say.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
For your wall example, your art wall,
Yeah.
you're gonna have multiple artists, you're gonna have to rotate, or how are you gonna do that?
Well, I think that would be someplace where you could kind of leave it up to the people who are involved.
Or cover up someone else's art to
Well,
put new art, or?
Yeah, after a period of time, yeah, it's a free form of expression. And there could be, I mean, it could be set up. I'm not just saying you put up a wall and say, okay, people, come here, bring your paint or whatever. There would have to be some ground rules established. And get all the participants, people who would like to do this, come together and work something out. And I'm not just talking about one wall in the park. I'd like to see them in at least half the parks, because then you get a lot more people, have a lot more chance for participation. If you got one 12-foot wall that's 8 feet tall for the whole city, you're going to run into trouble. But if you got 10 of them or 12 of them, then, and the people that were doing this would be partially responsible for the maintenance. I mean, you don't want somebody going in there with a sledgehammer and destroying or anything like that. I mean, you got to figure this out. But too many times I think that people see that, oh, that's not art, I don't like that. Let's get out there. You got to clean that up, or you're going to get fined for it. Because right now we don't have any place in town where people who have some artistic endeavors to express themselves. And they may not have the capability of doing it in a formal manner. So I'm just saying, loosen it up, let people have a chance to participate. It's their park, their land, just as much as it's your land or your land, anybody, my land. It's not something that's easy to do. But then does everything have to be easy? Okay.
You have a question?
It's less a question and more some comments, I guess, to follow up. Sorry, I'll speak up. Less a question, more like comments to follow up on it. I'm interested in your idea of like designated tagging walls, or something to that effect. I think it wasn't that long ago that the idea of playing rock and roll in our parks at an amphitheater would have been a weird idea to some people.
Yeah.
I think it wasn't that long ago that a park structure designated specifically for skating, a counterculture activity, would have been considered outrageous. So it's certainly a good idea. I think, instead of having skaters skate on the rails and stairs in our areas where we want to do different activities, it's pretty dangerous. And so we've constructed ways for them to do that safely in a place that's not going to interfere with other activities. I think the same can be said for, places for free-form art or urban art or whatever we want to call it to be done. It's a great idea. I would be interested in finding ways that we can encourage more responsible uses of expression in our parks. To add on to that, I also think your general idea of not boxing ourselves into the traditional idea of what parks and recreation services can be and are is really good. I too noticed that in the survey. one of the things, I work in a nonprofit that helps provide safe video gaming spaces for students, and we have interest from other cities, and actually Albany is one of them, that has contacted us to provide services for their Parks and Recreation Department. And there's places all over the country that are doing that. They're providing places for students to do more technological reliant activities in their parks departments. So I don't know that we definitely need to be addressing a place for students to play video games, but I would be interested in exploring the idea. So I agree with your sentiment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
Anybody else wish to speak? Okay. New old business. MIG.
Yes, I would like to introduce to the group here Cindy Mendoza. She's with MIG, and she has a great presentation for us all, and hopefully bring some clarification to the topics that have been mentioned tonight. And with that, I'll give it to Cindy.
Thank you so much, Robert. Can you all hear me okay? Excellent. I am pleased to be here tonight to introduce to you the Parks and Recreation Master Plan update process. Tonight, we're going to be able to have a conversation about the planning process to give you an overview of what to expect, as well as to address some preliminary findings that we've identified already moving forward. As part of this, we also want to follow up with
Could you speak more directly into the microphone? I can't really hear you.
All right, is that better? Excellent. We would like to have a discussion following this presentation about what's working well, what needs more attention for the Park and Recreation system, as well as what priorities this plan should address. But before I get started in this, I want to tell you a little bit about MIG. I think that may help address some of the comments that we're hearing here tonight already. MIG is a Park and Recreation planning and design firm, but actually Parks and Recreation is one subset of what we do. I'm the director of Parks and Rec there. We've been doing planning across the United States for more than 30 years now. That includes more than 350 city systems, as well as park districts, counties as well. So there's tremendous experience that we bring to the table in terms of identifying what community needs are. And it's a real multifaceted, nuanced approach. And to do that, you will realize that we are identifying questions and involving the community in a way that we really set a community vision for the master plan. As noted on this slide, this is a 10-year update. It's a long-range plan, but it's driven by the community's vision and priorities. And to do that, we want to understand what they think about parks and all of the elements of parks, the facilities and amenities that are in parks, how parks are managed, maintained, and cared for. And as part of that, the relationships that residents have to their park system. And all of this information helps us identify the right standards, policies, projects, and implementation strategies to provide moving forward over the next 10 years, realizing that we need a shorter-term action plan to be able to move forward. There are several goals associated with this. One is we're simply updating the 2008 Parks and Rec plan, replacing it with newer information to guide the park system. But we also want to assess park and facility condition, maintenance, and deferred maintenance needs. We want to make sure that we are involving all of the right people, not only just residents in general, but some of your key stakeholders who use your park system more frequently, including the sports leagues that we heard from already tonight based on their relationship with parks, but also involving city staff, you all, council members, and other committees and neighborhood associations to make sure we are addressing everyone's needs. And as part of that, we start out by identifying some opportunities and challenges that this master plan process needs to address to ensure that you're getting the best possible park and recreation system moving forward. And we also start to look at funding, because a master plan that doesn't come with some teeth in it and some guidance on how to actually implement it, in my mind, is worthless to you. You really need to understand a bit about the costs associated, as well as where the funds come from to help implement that. So as part of this, we'll be looking at the systems development charge methodology. I'm not going to get into details tonight, but basically it's a charge that's passed on to cover the impacts associated with new development. And then finally, as I mentioned, critical to this is figuring out how we build on the community resources already present, leverage support from other residents, from clubs, from the people who are most involved in your system to ensure that we are implementing this plan. There's a schedule here. Don't expect you to look at the details of the schedule, but what I want you to realize is even though this is a fairly rapid planning process that is anticipated to wrap up at the end of April, there are several steps along the way. There are several opportunities to check in with residents and others to make sure that we are doing things correctly and getting the information we need moving forward. And as Bill stepped up to mention, we're checking in with staff to make sure we have the right information to make decisions on moving forward on this timeline. So there's already been some adjustments from the schedule that we put forward initially as we look at the best possible ways to encourage feedback along this planning process. So right now we're in the middle of phase 1. We've already launched the survey in part to give it a longer time to be able to ensure we get the feedback that we need to move forward into other tasks. You all will meet 3 times during the process, and our hope is to have you help me make sure that this master plan is meeting community needs, as well as to make sure that we have the guidance needed at critical milestones, such as after the first round of outreach, to see if that really caught the preferences and priorities of the community, so we can use that feedback going into the next round of outreach to fine-tune things as we go forward. Same thing with our needs assessment phase, looking at these community needs and making sure that those are clear and understood before we start to develop recommendations. So it's an iterative project. And as part of this, you also get to serve as ambassadors to this plan. You've already mentioned in some cases ways that you've been able to reach out to others with regards to the survey to help us advertise it. That's exactly the role that we would like for you to play to make sure that community members feel connected to this planning process. There are several different opportunities for people to be involved in this plan. Typically, we started with key leader interviews, that is, interviews with council members as well as the mayor to understand the directions and priorities they have for the planning process. We put those back just a little bit because of the election. We want to make sure that we are capturing the insights of the new incoming council members as we move forward. So we'll initiate those here in the next few weeks and carry those into January. And then, as you know, the Park and Recreation Survey is out now. And there's a third key critical piece of understanding community needs, and that is our focus groups, where we're going to meet with 3 different groups who are still to be determined to understand what specific needs are moving forward. So for example, if in the survey we hear more strongly about priorities around sports or conflicts around field needs, for example, as we heard here tonight, one of those focus groups would definitely be around sports to make sure that we understand the more nuanced needs that we would get in the survey, for example. Same thing around youth and family needs in this community. There's an opportunity to meet with representatives or to involve folks or even maybe different neighborhoods to ensure that we are understanding their needs moving forward. One of the reasons we've held off on these focus groups is because we are working in a COVID environment. And when we come into a community, it's helpful for us to start to understand better what percentage of people participate in outreach activities online versus what percentage of people do prefer some type of in-person process. I'm going to tell you something that you may find pretty staggering, and that is that outreach in the COVID era has actually been above and beyond what we typically see in terms of outreach at any other time. And it's because people right now are just critically connected to their park system. They understand the need to be outdoors. They are really making an effort to respond to things. So we are getting feedback twice that we typically get in a planning process. As part of this, it's also important to understand that there is outreach at the beginning. It's kind of this broad brush sense of what are your needs across the system? What are important to people? Is it about art? Is it about sports? Is it about family opportunities? Is it about protecting nature or access to the river? We've heard all of those things here tonight, and more than likely we will hear all of those things through the survey as well. But some priorities will start to emerge that then help us really understand what next set of questions to ask. So certainly the survey doesn't address every question or every opportunity. In many communities, that last question at the very end of the survey that says, is there anything else we need to know, is that window for people to share their hearts about what is most important about the park and recreation system. In some communities, we get 100 pages of additional comments from all the people that have responded to the survey. Just a wealth of information there. So it may feel like the survey is leading people in a certain direction. The intent is to give them enough options to start to open the door to the further questions that we need to ask moving forward. And those further questions then inform a whole nother round of outreach, which is how we assess priorities on recommendations moving forward. So once we've identified recommendations and potential projects, we want to narrow those down into the priorities for the community. What moves forward in the first couple of years? What moves forward in the next 5 years? And then into that 10-year horizon. So we do something called a prioritization challenge that actually involves interested community members in identifying those trade-offs and needs to figure out how to move forward. A little bit more about the survey, and honestly, I wasn't going to give you this much detail, but there were some really good questions raised about it here. The thing that I want you to know is that in the first week of this survey, we had 247 responses. We talked about that 1% of the community involved, which is about 400 people. What's good to know is if there was a statistically representative random sample survey conducted in this community, the base sample size that they target is 400 residents. And it doesn't sound like much, but 400 is all it takes to get a representative sample. We didn't do a random sample survey here. We did an open questionnaire because we feel it's really important in this first pass for anyone who wants to have a voice in the planning process to have the opportunity to do so. But in this first week, to tell you how good of a first week this is, I'm also working in the city of Sacramento right now. So we're looking at a city of 450,000 residents. In their first week of their survey, they had fewer responses than you all did here in your first week of the survey. So again, the first week is just that first brush as the word is getting out. I certainly expect to hit 400, respondents of this survey. And if not, as Bill mentioned, we pause and look to see if we need to advertise it in a different direction or leave it open longer to get the response that's needed. So with that, I'd like to turn and just talk a bit about your park and recreation system. We've started to map your parks. This will look familiar to you. You know that you have a mix of larger and smaller city parks, as well as a major regional park that anchors a system. Some parks that connect you to the riverfront, others that support more specialized uses, such as sports or the skate park, for example. Together, these amount to approximately 240 acres of parkland. Shown here is your park classification system and how this breaks down in terms of the numbers of sites as well as the acreage. What you'll see is that smaller parks, such as those that serve nearby neighbors, are the ones that are most prevalent in terms of numbers, but smaller in terms of acreage. One of the ways that we look at park systems is not just about size and numbers, but about how parks function. So we start to pay attention to which are the sites that are connecting you to the river and how effectively are they doing that? Where are the ones that are serving nearby neighbors or providing sports for the entire community, and how effective are they at doing that? And again, what are those specialized opportunities, such as the community garden even? And as we look at all of this, we start to pay attention to details with regards to park character, as well as things such as access to parks. So we notice things such as how natural is your park system? And that was one of the things that jumped out at us immediately, is that nature is very important here. You have an abundance of natural resources and some beautiful parks. And I agree that nature and beauty can be one and the same, but for some people they're not. So we separate them in the survey to try to understand what people see when they look at parks. We notice things such as the fact that there's a strong identity for your park system. It's noted in every sign when you come to the park, the fact that it's immediately recognizable as a city park because of the standardization of signage. But it's also noted in things like the kiosk that you see there, that we see a lot of interpretive signage here, telling me there's a strong connection to the people, to the place, to the history of this community, and even interpretation of your natural resources. So again, that identity is really important, the connections to the river. And then things such as, how do you get to your parks? What's the experience as you see, the trail leading from the neighborhood into one of your park sites? We'll start to evaluate all that from a technical analysis as well to ensure that people have access to different opportunities. We also start to take into account what are the different types of amenities and facilities you have in your park. How many of them support active recreation? How many support play? What are the other types of opportunities that are involved? It is really interesting to kind of look outside the box, knowing that some of the most popular Parks and Rec amenities nowadays are things that weren't envisioned 20 years ago. A dog park is relatively new. Pickleball is relatively new. So we are always looking at the next thing on the horizon to figure out where you should be in 10 years or even 20 years or more down the road. As we already heard from a Parks Board member, technology is changing so rapidly. It is changing the ways that people interact with parks. We take that into account as well when we look at a park system. We start to look at the organized activities that occur in parks as well as the drop-in activities, knowing that people use parks in different ways based on their busy lifestyles, their different schedules, based on their age. It was really fun to see your pickleball players out there in the rain. Again, Little League Park and just the activity that was going on there at a day earlier this fall. And of course, the buzz around the big toy, which you guys all know generates so much excitement for this community, or even at the skate park. But it's not all about kind of those organized activities. In some cases, we were noticing things like how many people were really just out for a walk, or again, the connections to the river being important as a way to get out and be outdoors. But then we also start to look at different community uses in terms of things like, what are the partnerships that are happening here? And we're seeing evidence of many of those, such as the food share program at the community garden. And then we start to look at things like, how do different groups within your community use parks? The sign there that's the rules and regulations, on the back side of the signs are the same rules and regulations, but in Spanish. Again, just a sign that there are different groups within your communities who may have different interests and different unique needs for the park system. So we'll be evaluating all of that moving forward. A critical piece of this will also be looking at how you maintain your parks. one of the things we noted, and kudos to Robert and his team, is that this is a very well-maintained park system. We know that funding, has been a challenge for all communities. We're also working with Albany, who's still coming out of the last recession and now looking at how it's affecting their park system going forward. A lot of communities are recognizing that things may be shifting now, and so this is an excellent time to be planning. To the question that was raised earlier, if you are looking at a shift in terms of how you manage and maintain your system, this is the best time to do it, because COVID's kind of put us on a pause. It's creating new behaviors, it's creating new opportunities at this point. So it allows us to start to look at how we apply our funding dollars most wisely to take care of this system, and how we partner with others, and how we address the natural hazards that come after a windstorm when trees come down, for example. The information I've given you is really just kind of a quick overview of your park system, some of the things that we are paying attention to as we just start off this planning process. But rather than me talking the whole time, my intention here today is really to get some feedback from you all to help guide us as we start to take these first steps in the process. Go ahead.
I read through the Parks Master Plan, all 250 pages of it. And I learned something. I learned that we don't have just 19 parks, we have a park system. And I thought they were all just individual parks. And so that was kind of new to me. Something else I learned is that we want to try to connect these parks with pathways and multiple use trails and bike lanes to make them more accessible. And so something I learned. We, as part of a park system, we want the parks to be connected, and that you don't get all of the amenities at one park, but with the whole system, then you get you can cover most of the amenities inside the whole system.
Exactly. Excellent point. The notion that it's not just about one site and looking at one site as an entity unto itself, but it's the opportunities that people have, whether it's parks within walking distance of their home or their ability to drive to go to something that is more unique and special to round out that experience. Or, as you mentioned, trails that connect the system.
And walking distance from neighborhood parks, a quarter mile or half a mile to get kids to the park, make them accessible.
Thank you.
Quick observation. Thank you, first of all, thank you for all the work you put into this. It's been really appreciated, and you've done a real good job in your presentation. The one component that I always look after is when you do outreach, and the common theme I heard from our folks that had a little, they came and spoke, was participation and when you do your outreach. And one of the things I always look for is if you get a good sample of the community that you're serving. And I want to make sure that, because I see you did outreach to focus groups. Were those made up of, and what were they made up of? Key leaders. And a lot of times our key leaders, they know, but it's not as inclusive as far as representation of our community. And if you go out in the summertime, go Claggy Park, and it's pretty much all Latinos, And so I think there's a component that is important is getting input from either going to churches or Latino. I'm part of a Latino organization, Keizer, and I would love to have heard of, honestly, I haven't done the survey yet, honestly, but I will. But I think that's the part that I'm really concerned with, because as I look around, I want to make sure that there's good representation of the folks that we're serving in terms of parks, because we all, as been stated here, we're all paying into that fee, and all members are. And so, especially now that we're working on diversity inclusion, we want to make sure that we make that effort. And I'm sure you have talked about that. I'm sure your focus groups are made up of a variety of different folks, but that's the part that's rung out with me with the folks speaking and thinking outside the box in terms of the limitation of some of the way Mr. Holman put it, a narrow thing. And I think that's always important. That's just my input and my observation, but I like what's happening. I don't know what the deadline type of thing is, because that's what I do. I try to help other community members get involved in decisions of stuff that are affecting them and their parks. So that was the part that I want to make sure that was completed or worked on. I'm sure you have. I don't know, but just from looking at it, just the fact that you have the survey in Spanish, that's good. But getting the right people to, they talk about online things. There's folks that don't have internet. You talk about, it's online or on the so-and-so website. That reaches a certain amount of people. So there's underrepresented folks that are, I believe, should be included in some way, at least an effort to. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you. Thank you for your hard work again.
Of course, and thank you for those comments. Certainly, one of the key themes that is arising across the nation, across the state, and in many communities locally here is looking at diversity and being more inclusive and making sure we're creating welcoming park system. That does include reaching out to underrepresented groups, which here, of course, includes Hispanic and Latino residents. And so we want to make sure that we are reaching them. We realize the online forum might not. Again, we've delayed these focus groups a little bit so we can see what information we draw out of the survey to really fine tune which groups we need to talk to more. I think what we'll find is that the survey is not reaching everyone, and that will help us understand what groups that we need to meet with in person or through Zoom or some other forum.
So just a couple comments, and then to actually are these open for discussion now?
Yes.
Okay. So for comments, in terms of when you look towards building those focus groups, we have 3 very, very good, very strong neighborhood associations. I would very, very highly recommend engaging those folks because they have a very broad reach. In addition to what Councilor Herrera said, I think trying to reach out to some of those underserved populations is also extremely important. One question I had, so we went through the process of discussing the fee option a few years ago, and we got a tremendous amount of feedback in terms of operations and maintenance as well as other new amenities, and I'm just curious to see if you have that data from that survey. That might be something that's helpful because it's still fresh in a lot of people's minds. I think that's probably something that Robert could get to you. We had a very strong representation. I think it was well over 900 people that responded on that. So it does talk specifically about the maintenance stuff and some of the other new amenities as well. But specifically on these questions, I think that it's nice to be able to sit here and look and actually have a planning discussion to look towards the future, because as we look in years past, as you mentioned, the budget has always been a big struggle. And I think in recent times we've seen that sort of relaxed a little bit simply because of the fact that the city responded so well and encouraged the parks fee, which has allowed our public works staff not only to increase their FTEs, but also increase their presence in the parks, which we heard tonight in testimony from Lisa. That continues to dwindle down the operations and maintenance needs in terms of the backlog of the deferred maintenance items. And we're starting to look towards the future and just really kind of putting a nice bow on things. So I think in terms of what's working well is the council's response to that survey and getting the park system the money that they need has been a tremendous help. But people responding and engaging in the parks process has also been really good. In addition to having the extra money, we haven't lost, I think, something that's very unique to Keizer, which is the public participation. And by that, I mean specifically the volunteer efforts. We've had really good projects continuing on in the park system. And West Keizer Neighborhood Association was huge in terms of work over at Wallace House back in October. We've had Rotary, we've had all the Little League teams and organizations continuing to maintain their parks, volunteers running all of our community gardens, et cetera, and the big volunteer efforts that have happened at other parks. So even though the funding is there, I think that community buy-in and that community response to continuing to maintain and improve our park system is something that I think is very, very important. The beauty of it is when we plant trees, everybody shows up. More affluent people, less affluent people, people from all cultures, backgrounds. We're doing really good outreach, and I think it's been great to see those different types of projects continue moving forward. As far as needing more attention, I think that a lot of that is speculation. We have a great 5-year plan, which I think we're just about halfway through now, which has informed a lot of what I think this parks body has said. Here's a lot of things in terms of operations and maintenance that need to be done. As always, our park staff continue to work above and beyond that list, but we also have the community engaging and bringing in new things that we didn't necessarily understand. So for example, the exercise equipment you showed in the recreation thing was done completely by volunteers in Rotary. And so some of those things we may not necessarily hear, but again, kind of leaning on our neighborhood groups, you know, West Keizer's always in here telling us what we're doing right and sometimes what we're doing wrong. And we typically respond pretty quickly. And when I say we, I mean Robert. Sometimes I get dragged in if it needs volunteer people, but and then I usually just drag Wayne along with me as well. But so we're doing good. I think some of the attention stuff just really requires more public participation, more willingness to come in and have that conversation. You know, I get emails, I know Robert gets emails, other folks get emails, and typically we try to respond back pretty quickly. But it's just kind of opening it up and allowing people to kind of reach out and say, hey, I got this question, how do I do that? And lastly, I think the prioritization piece for the plan, in terms of this planning process, public participation is always my number one. I think we've really got to hit very hard on that. You know, 400 is a great response statistically. However, I would expect that you're going to get a lot more than that. I expect that we'd probably hit 400 in the next week or so, just simply because of the fact that, you know, we've got people that really want to hear about this park system. So, you know, I think one of the things in terms of the long term, if I'm looking globally, as we build new, we have to plan for that ongoing long-term maintenance and operational standard. And so we don't want to get too big for our shoes that we don't have the ability to do so, or to be able to continue that maintenance and operation. I don't think we've put ourselves in that position thus far, especially with the fee and everything. But you know, it's great to have a Ferrari, but if you can't afford to maintain it, then there's no point in having a Ferrari. You know, yeah, you can get one for 50 grand, but it costs you 12 grand to do an oil change type thing. So just a couple of my thoughts. I think it's a good, robust process. I continue to encourage the work from our neighborhood groups. We got 3 really strong groups and other groups out there, both with the sports. You know, talk to your soccer folks. You're going to get some really, really good feedback from soccer. When we did our fee discussion, they were always at the table wanting to have conversations about things. So, and then get into the schools too. If there's an opportunity to create that nexus with the school district and see if you can get out to parents that way, maybe that's another good way to do it. You know, reach out. We've got 2 middle schools and a high school and a bunch of elementary schools in Keizer. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, can we, you know, send this out in a newsletter to the kids? I don't know, you know, I don't want to cross jurisdictions or something, but just another alternative idea. So.
All excellent comments. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what's already been said here as far as public participation. I would be happy to partner with the schools. I did it with the master planning and conversations with the Big Toy. There's lunch programs everywhere throughout Keizer. We can get that very easily with a quick conversation with Christy Perry. So that's something that I can help support. And then just even, we had some conversation and dialogue about who and what groups and focus groups, but it would be nice if we could have an update on where we're at with that, or if you need help from this team here to connect with those groups or anything that we can do to support. I know that Carol mentioned an idea about putting it on water bills. I do not open my water bill. I always just pay the same amount every month. However, there are people that open their water bill. So could we put some kind of stamp on the back of it or something, or even the paper copy as an option? Just again, I think that it's really, really important. We pay a good amount of money for that fee, and I think that it's important that we have voices heard, which I think we're all doing our part, but just really making sure that we're doing a really good job with it, especially now with COVID. And parks are very important. My family wouldn't have survived without the parks in Keizer. That's everything, every day. We're out moving around, so I think that families' voices or our community voices need to be heard about our next steps, but I don't want to see a delay. I think it's important that we do continue that process because we don't know how long this is going to take. So just wanting to make sure we're doing due diligence to ensure that all voices are heard.
Excellent. I appreciate the offer for that support. These are all great ideas, and yeah, we'll move forward. I'll coordinate with Robert and Bill to make this happen.
Cindy, I've got another one. Regarding the second question, what needs attention? I would recommend that we focus on connecting the parks with pathways. Again, I've been seeing the parks as individual parks, and the bigger concept is they're a park system, and we would like to try to connect them with multi-use pathways.
You've actually hit on something that we've seen is one of the most popular forms of recreation across the state and across the country. Trail-related recreation appeals to so many different ages, and so many different demographics that we see a huge demand for walkable, bikeable park systems.
We had I saw an email, and I don't recall who sent it, but it was for in Claggy Creek Park, just to make a walking path around the perimeter of the park, also connecting to the play area and the sports field. I've walked Claggy Creek Park. That's one of our large city parks, and it's if you walk it right now, you get your feet wet. So I'd recommend a path there. And I believe, Robert, you addressed that. Mm-hmm. There is a plan for a path connecting the two ends of the park.
Yeah, it's currently on our master plan right now, but I think it'll probably stay.
Okay.
No, I just have a general comment or general thought. As we get into this, and I think Wayne, you brought that up, we all need to take time and familiarize ourselves with the current plan, because I don't think there's a lot of things that we may think are new that already exist in the current master plan. And so what we don't want to do is sort of rehash things that are already considered unless they're just blatantly wrong, or if there's some things that are new, right? So, it's been probably 6 months since I read through it, but taking the time to go through it, and if there's specific things on our end that we see just simply don't work, or things that we want to see, I think those are some of the things we can focus on a little bit as a body. Maybe I'm just making that out loud as a mental note to myself, but I think in general, anybody out there that's looking at this master plan, it's out there. Go look. As you're going through the survey, as you're going through this public outreach process or the focus groups or what have you, look at what's currently out there. And the answer may come back that it's a great master plan. We've got a few things that we need to update, or we're talking some bigger issues here. But it is a good master plan. The difference is now we actually have an opportunity to finally start to accomplish some of those goals. Note to myself.
David, I have a comment. How can the Park Advisory Board help you? And I had an idea.
Immediately, certainly around getting the word out around this survey is the biggest thing at this point. Beyond that, we'll be coming back to you likely in February with strong questions around priorities for recommendations. We'll be presenting findings from the needs assessment. And so we'll want to make sure and hear your expertise and insights to see whether the needs that were identified there really reflect the community and what you would advise in terms of moving forward with recommendations. We'll have some preliminary insights with regards to operations at that point. So I think being prepared for that next conversation is an important way to help us move forward strongly into recommendations.
Each of us are assigned parks to monitor. And so what I would recommend from our Parks Advisory Board is go to your parks and take an inventory of all the existing facilities and amenities. Also in the master plan, there's a list of recommendations. This is in Appendix A, page 170 is where it starts. And there was a list of recommendations when the master plan was done back in 2008. And so now we can put check marks on some of those recommendations to see if they've been done. So I would recommend that our members take inventory of your park and then also compare it to the old master plan and see if any of those recommendations have been done, a status check. Okay.
That would be great, recognizing, of course, that in some cases, recommendations from 10 years ago may be obsolete, and that's the beauty of refreshing it at this point. So there may be reasons that some weren't accomplished, and yet some that we want to carry forward into this plan as well.
I want to make another note too. It's 250 pages long, but some of those pages are intentionally left blank.
It must have been formatted for double-sided printing.
I will make one more note. I'm really excited that we're bringing in the Little League Park into this master plan. I think that's been something that has worked well in the past, but I think moving forward, it's going to be a game changer for that facility to have the opportunity to be in the master plan and help that facility function back to its glory days. So I think it's a great thing. Looking forward to that addition.
Any comments? Questions? Oh. Have you anything else for us?
I was just going to let you know that our next steps are we are double checking the inventory of all parks. We're checking the acreage. We're going to come forward with a summary of that in something we call brief number 1, which is the state of the system. So we'll share those findings with you then before we move forward into our needs assessment. I really appreciate your comments and direction here today.
Thank you. So, yes, sir.
I guess since we've heard this, the only thing that I would say is from those folks that spoke earlier about the master plan process, do you feel like that answers some of your questions? Or, I don't know, do we want to take a second shot at thoughts from the folks that talked earlier? Because I know that they asked questions, they've heard it now. I don't know if there's a need to kind of...
Are you willing to take questions? Okay, Carol, come on up and have some questions.
Well, I just have one.
No, you got to come up to the microphone so it gets recorded.
I hear your question.
Little lady, once they get set down, it's hard to
Hey,
get back up.
you know what? I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah, especially when you work in New York. This question was.
Sorry, Carol, you got to talk into the microphone
Cindy.
now.
It's
I
recorded.
can speak loudly.
Okay.
What is the accepted number of input for a city the size of Keizer? So say we're 46,000 people.
To be honest, to me, it's not all about the numbers. Numbers is part of it, but what's important is that we reach diverse groups in this community. And I not only mean culturally diverse, but I also mean the different neighborhood associations across different geographies. Want to make sure we're talking to people who are interested in sports and those that are interested in the arts and everything in between. So in terms of numbers, certainly for the survey, when we hit the 400, that's great. I will tell you that in the community of West Lynn, for example, they had 1,800 respond to their online survey. One of the things we find is that in communities where there's a strong relationship between the neighbors and their parks, we tend to get a stronger response because honestly, people like you do a fabulous job in terms of encouraging others to respond to the survey and making sure their voices are heard. So I am so excited you are here. I would say through this planning process, I would expect, 2,000 people participating at any one time. Again, a larger percentage than you indicated, needed to be involved. I'm more ambitious that way.
So where did you get the target number of 400 responses from?
400 is for a statistically representative survey, the base number that they try to get to achieve a sample response with a 95% confidence interval. What that means is that the answers are what you would see if you had polled everybody in the community, that you would be within 95% accurate, even though you only talked to 400.
So that's not based on population?
No, based on scientific random sample surveys and the probability of how that works. So again, 400 is a good base, but if we want to make sure that we're representing all the different viewpoints in this planning process, I would like to do more than that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else has a question for the consultant? Thank you for your presentation. It was very good. Thank you.
Are you in town? Are you, Cindy? Cindy, here? Are you in town? Are you working in the city building, or how do we get ideas to you or information to you?
I work out of our Portland, Oregon office. I can give you my card, my email address, a phone. We'll be here in town for various meetings. We were down here just a couple of weeks ago to tour all of your parks.
Pretty nice parks, huh?
Really amazing parks, and I will say that we saved Keizer Rapids there for the end because it was fun to see the energy in the evening in that park, from people down the water, people at the big toy, at the dog park. Clearly, as the sun went down, people weren't ready to go home. It's an amazing resource for this community.
There's hiking trails in there too.
Indeed.
Okay, shall we
I
move
got
on?
one. By chance, was your group involved in any of the parks in Utah?
We recently completed the Murray City, Utah plan. For the park and rec system, that's the one system-wide planning that we've done. However, we have designers who have done work there, as well as a lot of transit-oriented development, bike trails and transportation system plans through Utah. Is there a particular community you're thinking of?
They have one that's called Harvey Park in Cedar Hills that is very new and it's unbelievable. I mean, it's like a playground for adults and kids. So anyway, just wondering. Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Parks reports. Let's see. Clay.
Yeah, thanks. I was at today at Willamette Manor. Things looked really good. There's quite a few kids actually that are playing today. The only thing I noticed that needed a little attention was there's a main grove of trees as you walk in on the right. Looks like there's a lot of, I don't know if that just came down or if it's, I didn't notice it last time, so it must have been in the last few weeks that it came down. There's quite a bit of debris that's fallen. So other than that, they both look good. No major issues.
And Matt.
So, Chalmers Jones, this weekend, I was out there. It was cold. It's quite cold, but the skate park was packed. And I like to be the age again where I can go out in the wind and skateboard with shorts and a t-shirt. It was really cold, but it was packed. It was beautiful out, nice and sunny, dry. We had, folks gathering in the large gazebo, which looks amazing thanks to our Eagle Scout project. The upkeep always is very good. The Wallace House, I haven't been able to get out there recently. I drove by there a couple weeks ago, and there was just a little bit of rubbish sitting around the playground, but I walked around and picked it up. Still continuing to hear good things in terms of the use down in the bottom area, which is pretty exciting. We were just talking about it out in the lobby about kind of the next phase of the attack down there in terms of cleaning out rubbish and other things like that. It's probably going to be an annual thing. I know on the watershed side, I might shift one of my annual projects to Wallace House just simply because of the volume of debris that can potentially come through there with high waters. And so Robert's kind of kicked me out of Ben Miller simply because they're doing such a great job down there. Other than a little bit of rubbish cleanup, there's not been a lot for us to do. So we might change our attack and go towards Wallace House and, worry about some of the debris and stuff down there. So, just continuing to do great things, and Robert and his guys are doing a great job of keeping volunteer work easy. So,
Thank you. So, farewell to Clint Holland. Clint's not here.
Hi, if he's watching.
Oh. Clint was on the Parks Board from 2005 to 2020. And he's always been a great help with the Little League Park. And a lot of the amphitheater, in fact, all the amphitheater events were planned by Clint. So you have anything to say about Clint? Other than we should have had cake, maybe he would have come.
and it's public access. I don't know if I should say it on TV.
That's
No, I'm kidding.
true.
Clint, we've all learned a lot from Clint over the years. Tanya had to deal with him in her first iteration on the Parks Board, and Dylan and you and I and Wayne have been fighting with him for the last 3 or 4 years. But Clint's amazing. He wears his heart on his sleeve when it comes to his volunteer efforts in our park system, and I think that we'd be lucky to find volunteers like him that even did a quarter of what he does. He's not going anywhere, but certainly going to miss his participation on this board. I guarantee you we're going to hear from him again, especially with Keizer Rapids and whatever other project he chooses to dig his fingers in. So it's not goodbye, it's just we're waiting to see you again.
You have anything to say?
I have appreciated my time working with Clint on this board. I don't know. Matt said a lot of the good things. So.
Start with Dylan next time.
I'll start with Dylan next time.
Oh, are we going all around? I appreciated, I echo how grateful I am for all the work that he's done from the parks, but also he always gave me chocolates, and so I'm going to miss out. So Dylan has decided to step in. He's going to start giving me chocolates from now on, I guess. Sweet? Okay.
What's up there, Willy Wonka? Where's my chocolate?
No, we're going to have some big shoes to fill. I hope that he still stays around. He's still going to help us guide and lead some of that work behind the scenes, though. So, yeah.
Clint gives chocolate to all the ladies. Wayne.
How can I top chocolate? Sorry.
I know you can't top
I'd like to say thank you for Clint. He helped me when I was working on a soccer field. You did also, Dylan. You gave me some ideas. And Clint gave me some ideas when I was thinking about a second soccer field. And second soccer field never happened. But the first soccer field did happen, and it could happen again at another location.
Well, I have something to add because Clint was instrumental in building the amphitheater in Keizer Rapids Park, and he's been almost totally responsible for the summer free concerts. I think he's almost disappointed nothing happened this summer. Yeah. But he's an amazing man. He never stops. He goes from watering the amphitheater to go from watering the park, the baseball park. He's always going.
Mm-hmm.
We got Councilor Herrera and Clay still here from.
Oh, I forgot. I can't see you.
I ran across Clint back in '03 with my kids playing Little League. So been involved with him and just seems like the Energizer Bunny. So I really appreciate being around with all of the things he's helped my family out with and the parks, obviously.
He can talk your ear off too.
If you ask for pie, just say no. I'm kidding.
Anything about the Little League Park. Roland, it's your turn.
I just want to say I appreciate Clint for all he's done. Probably of all you guys, he was my mentor 40 years ago, believe it or not. Took over the parks, but he never left. He's just always there. But I really appreciate him, and every group needs a Clint to get stuff done. You put him over there and keep him busy, That's the old joke. But he knows I really appreciate all he's done for me and this group. And not the amphitheater wouldn't be there without him. But good luck, Clint.
Thank you, Roland.
So we do have our new Parks Board member, Matthew Poteet, here. So he's going to be filling in for Clint. It's cool. He's not even on the board yet, but he's here. He's listening, engaged. So big shoes to fill, but welcome.
All right. Staff report.
Yeah. Claggy Creek Park play structure is still under construction. They have had some delays with the weather lately, and the sheer cold temperatures have actually slowed the project down with pouring the rubberized surfacing. So they have worked pretty much every day they can down there, and they're just kind of bouncing around on some warmer days and some not so warmer days. They do have a new completion date set for December 24th, Christmas Eve. So keeping our fingers crossed that we can have that done by then. And I mean, it's looking really good for a late fall project. They've done a good job of keeping the site clean and keeping things on track. So we are very excited to see that playground reopen so the public can come use another new awesome playground with an ADA surfacing throughout. And it's just one more feature to add to Claggy Creek Park that will just continue to make that park even better than it has been before. So we are very excited for that. And also our leaf season is almost finished. It was quite a challenge this year. All the leaves dropped at one time, and then it rained like crazy on them. But we've just been plugging away, and hopefully if you've gone through your parks this week, you've started to see there's not as many leaves on the ground as there was a couple weeks ago. So we are trying to get those final detail for the winter and be able to move on to some of our other winter projects. And I just want to thank Cindy tonight for her presentation. It was very good. Hopefully we answered some questions, and I know she's going to be a great resource to continue to answer questions and just work through this process with our group. And it's going to be exciting. It is fast-paced, but like she said, we want to make sure we involve as many people as possible, and I think we're on track to do that. So thank you.
Roland.
I too would like to thank Cindy again for that. Quick highlights on the council meeting. We, first of all, I want to recognize, and this volunteer of the quarter is very special to me. Trish Crenshaw, I'm going to read some of my notes here. She was in the volunteer coordinating committee for 13 years, and she was chair for two different stints as chair. She's been volunteering for many, many years, and I don't think she's going nowhere, but she was, I want to congratulate her on volunteer of the quarter. And by the way, she was nominated by our mayor and Kim Freeman. So also I want to welcome some members, new members, besides Matthew Poteet, who's back there, going to be in this particular group right here, Parks. But our volunteer coordinating committee recommendations for new appointments are as follows. Melissa Martin will be in position 2 for the budget committee. And then on the traffic safety bikeways pedestrian committee will be Michael de Blasi and Jamie Davis. So we welcome those folks, and we appreciate all the volunteers that have been stepping up. And during these hard times, it's kind of hard, but here we are. We're doing this. Although we do some Zoom and some live like this today, I encourage everybody to be very careful when you're volunteering, no matter. So last thing I want to talk about is we finally, I got to mention this. We had an issue come up. The staff did an incredible job. They looked at a situation where we had these huge sequoia trees. I thought they were redwoods, whatever. And then the logic said the sidewalk was, normally we always put the burden on the owner of the home as far as repairing the sidewalk. And I happen to know this area real well because I read meters there for 10 years back in the old days. And that sidewalk, it was a sidewalk to nowhere. And the decision was made to just take the sidewalk and let the trees live. Down the road, they're going to cause some problems probably. But as of right now, they made the right decision. I'm glad they brought it before council, but I encourage them to keep following those pragmatic positions they make. And I really appreciate our staff and the public works people that are involved in that. If you saw those trees, you would say, don't ever take these down. They're the big sequoias on Harcourt. I don't know if you know who they are. Huge sequoias. So anyway, and last but not least, I just want to tell everybody during this time of the COVID, right now there's a lot of anxiety going on. And our city is doing an incredible job of hanging in there. And there's time, we all want to go back to school, back to the, bars and the store and all the, but I think that it's a group effort. We can all work together and try to unite as far as doing the right things and helping each other. It's a group effort, so I just want to tell everybody, hang in there. It's tough for some. I mean, in the summertime I travel. I'm never in Keizer usually, but it's tough, and we have to hang in there together. And I just wanted some encouraging words to our public in terms of what we have to do and moving forward to hang in there during the holidays. And remember to be very, very safe and wear your mask. And every time I see leaders on TV, I want them to show a mask, show by lead. And I think it's very important. So thank you very much. That's my report.
Very nice.
Thank you, Chair.
So, other business, you had a question for Robert?
Yeah, I had a question for Robert. The other project that had delays was the exercise equipment in Keizer Rapids and Wallace House. And was there one other?
That's it for right now.
Okay. And they still seem to be delayed. I'm just
Yes.
curious, do we have any update on new due dates on those?
I don't have a new completion date set for that. The volunteers have reached out to me recently, and they're kind of getting back together and making a plan of attack for this winter to get those complete. And they are also waiting on some good dry weather, which we have started to have. We kind of need the ground to dry out at depths because it involves drilling, augering some large holes. And if you auger holes in sandy loam soil and then they fill with water, they basically just collapse on themselves. So it's a little bit challenging, but they are definitely eager to get the project done and are doing everything they can to get it done. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Good. Awesome. Every time I go to Keizer Rapids, I look for any changes, which there haven't been so in a while.
Yeah.
I'm excited for them.
Yep.
It's a really nice hole, though.
It is a nice hole.
Do you stuff and spit in it?
I don't.
Oh,
no.
darn.
Now they put up there's like a little don't fall in me
So you
fence.
can't get close.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Want to work for the city of Salem Water. People, dig a big hole, people have to spit in it. I
Yeah.
don't know what.
Yeah.
Matt?
I just have one comment. Go on the Keizer Facebook page or keizer.org, find the survey, complete the survey. Everybody that hears this, go on your Facebook page, send it out to everybody that you know in Keizer. Let's hit 500 by next week. Really important. When Keizer's asked to provide feedback, we do a good job. So keizer.org, find it there, or go on the Keizer Facebook page, check out any of the neighborhood pages, and don't forget to go out and support the Gupster Lights, Miracle Lights. They're still collecting food and donations out there. Excited to help the Keizer Network of Women next week. They're going to be giving out 185 families with different food boxes, and I think we're serving over 500 kids with gifts. So it's pretty humbling when you stand there for 6 hours and cars just coming through and they're delivering. I just get to stand there with a piece of paper this year, but it's a good project. So that's it. Keizer.org, find the survey, do the survey. Keizer.org, find the survey, do the survey.
Third time?
Keizer.org.
All right, any other comments, questions?
Keizer.org.
There you go.
Hey, David.
You get that last piece.
Do the survey.
Are you gonna hit him with the gavel?
This meeting stands adjourned at 7:28.